O.M. Bajizzle Nizzle, my alley bizzle fizzles. Gosh, been watching too much Jamie Kennedy and Malibu's Most Wanted. I think that's the guy's name. Anyways, fam, we are back again for another dopity dope sauce Infinity Kingdom video. Today, I want to give you guys another update on how S79 is going. So y'all are in for a treat. It's going to be somewhat of a little double dose video today. By the time this comes out, it'll probably be a semi amount of hours after our first one. But I do think it's important. So let me first start off with how old is 79 right now, right? So we just hit a week about an hour, 18 minutes ago. And I really want to say, and I'm going to give you guys a nice overview, a complete rundown, right? I think the important thing is I really give you, right, what a lot of other kingdoms and people that talk about their kingdoms may not give you, which is just the transparent truth of what's happening, right? So I'm going to tell you kind of the good, the bad, the questionable, and let you know what's going on, along with giving you my opinion at the end. So at the moment, let me start off as I'm slowly trying to upgrade the dwelling. Let me zoom out a little bit here, and let's actually take a look at the map. So the map right now, as you can see, is somewhat assorted, right? The idea is not necessarily to come in with, you know, splitting the map up in thirds by factions, right? Where you would typically see this done in a good amount of servers where they'll just by default split it up 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I do not disagree with that. I do think that is one way that you can go about splitting up a map. But I do think that the most important thing is making sure, and I'll probably do a further video on this later, but really making sure that you are splitting up per RSS zones. This is the most important thing that every server truly needs to look at if you want a good chance at, one, having the highest percentage opportunity to retain players and keep activity high. And the short version here is that as you go up in RSS zones, that gives you access to higher level gnomes, bosses, and then higher RSS tiles, plus higher RSS bonuses if you control one of the 4 RSS zone districts, because obviously you can't necessarily control Forbidden Zone for getting resources there. So again, that's what we're really going off of. And just to kind of give you a short version, right, there are 33 RSS Zone 1 cities, right, which is comprised of these, right? So if we do show initial city levels, but for city levels 1 and 2, right, those make up RSS Zone 1. For Zone 2, you'll notice that there are city levels of 3, 4. I thought there was a 5 that I saw here, but maybe I'm blind on that. Okay, yeah, no. So just 3s and 4s. And then Zone 3 is comprised of city level 5s and 7s, right? So again, they will include, as you can see here, right, the 3 level 5 capitals. And then also, Zone 3 has the 3 level 7 capitals. And then you finally get to RSS Zone 4, and you'll see these are city levels of 7 through 9, also including the 9 capitals. So you have 33 cities in Zone 1, 20 in Zone 2, 19 in Zone 3, and then 9 in Zone 4. So again, that's kind of our goal, right, is to try and have the top 33 each have a city, top 19 each have a city, top 20, and then, of course, getting to the top 9. The idea behind this is that it would allow for the most amount of players and alliances to truly benefit from the limited resources that are on the map. So an example of this is, I don't know if I can bust out my calculator real quick, right? So let's say you're at max player capacity, and you do 150 players, right, times 33. Again, this is the idea, right? This is where you want to try and get to, even though it will be, I would say, difficult for anyone to really do that. But that comes out to 4,950, so almost 5,000 players, right? If you can get your server to that point where you are trying to reach, that really should be the first immediate goal, right? Is to try and obviously have more than that, but have that be your core, right? If you can try and get as close as you can to that, or, you know, working towards it, phenomenal. So now, where are we currently? So let's take a look at, you know, some of the leaderboards right now, so I can show you how those are panning out. And you can see here that, right, our Fallen Family alliances are still pretty close, right? There's only about a 1.27, I guess 1.28 mil gap between 5 and 1, right? Keep in mind that all of these alliances, right, we've already kind of hit our 80 cap. You can even see alliance levels, right? We have, I don't even know, wow, we actually have more than I thought at 3. So we have 20 alliances already at alliance level 3. That's actually pretty good from what I'm used to seeing early on average. Now, alliance power, right? Again, the gap is not wide, or I should say it's not that wide. And this is something that, right, we're always proactively working on over time. I can't give enough of a shout out to the leads that we have here in the project, right? With Ghost here and Fate, Berserk, our new lead that was brought on, and then we got FSM for Embla, my homegirl, and then, of course, Mr. Ghosty over here in Fassy, right? Again, I can't give enough love to the efforts of these leads. Everyone so far has been on the same page. Again, we might have different ideals or different thoughts about kind of how we get to the end point, but I can say without a doubt so far, everyone has been really good about talking it out, right? And the four of us, myself, Ghost, Embla, and Crimson, right, we all played in S36 together. Right, I mean, these leads have experience in other kingdom builders, right? They wanted to run it back again in S79 because they truly believed in the project. And that really, my friends, is what you need when you are going into a server, right, with a group. You need leads that truly, truly believe at their core in what your project is about and what you are aiming for. Right, it is okay to have discussions, opinions, right? They probably tell you themselves, right? They don't necessarily agree with everything I say. I don't necessarily agree with everything that they say. But the one thing that we are always willing to do, right, in our endeavor to reach the same common denominator and goal, right, is we're happy to talk it out, right? Get in a voice call, have a discussion. These are important things when you are looking to, one, stabilize and build out your kingdom from scratch, right? On day one, providing structure, support to the server. So I can't say enough about that. Obviously, the officers have been great. We've been having, shout out to Tamari for one of the officers there who's been speaking in Spanish. And I know we have another one. God, I have to look at some of these chats that we have going on right now. I know there was a Spanish speaker. There was another one. Gosh, I feel so bad. Nacho, I know, was doing some Spanish. I'm like going through some of these chats right now. But again, right, just a few of those. I can't say enough about the team that has really been doing a great job. Now, on the other end of that, right, let's talk about some things that we are facing currently as far as, right, some of the initial kind of hurdles and the challenges that you are when you're implementing a server-wide system like what we're doing, right? So the most important thing that you really have to do early on is communicate, right? You have to make sure that you are taking time to reach out, because keep in mind, you don't have access to server mail yet, right? Once we do have access to server mail, right after the first COR round, which I now have to actually go back in here to take a look at, right? That is really going to be our first opportunity at reaching every single player, getting more people in the Discord, etc., etc. So that's going to be at, oh god, these aren't capitals, I think. I think it's 11, or is it, maybe it's 14, right? Where's COR round 1? Okay, yeah. So we got to wait till the 24th. So that is still, 15 days away from now, right? So almost 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks getting into the server before we're going to start COR round 1, which means that we're going to have to wait probably around, 4 days or so from that point until we're going to be able to crown a king. So you're looking at around day 25, which again, compared to other kingdom builders, is extremely early, right, to have access to server mail, which is fantastic, right? But that is what we need and what every server really needs to try and get to really start informing and furthermore educating your player base on what is happening, what the rules are. Because right now, the only way that you can really be semi-efficient in that regard, as far as disseminating the information, is you have to go through your leaderboards as such, and this is what we've done. You have to message all of these alliances, right? So one of the things we did early on is we came up with this nice kind of 4-part, 450 character per message, right? So that comes out to like, what, 900, 1,800 characters, right, that we did, but we split it up across 4 messages. We formatted it because if you send it online via an emulator, right, it'll format when you're posting it. And so we did that. My buddy Ghost and I, we reached out to the top 75 alliances on day 2, going into day 3, and then we even sent another follow-up message as well, I want to say maybe 2 days ago, reiterating the rules further, but specifically focusing on the actual event rules, right, for the big events, right? So our first message on day 2 and 3 was kind of an introduction, mixed in with some event rules and some server goals. Then we did a follow-up message a couple days after that, at around day 5, and we re-messaged the top 75 again, letting them know, right, these are what this is how we're doing city distribution, this is where we're doing Titan Tula, this is how we're doing COR, etc. And that is important, right? Now the next step really for us is to try and message all of the alliances, right? So, working it down to the top 100 here, regardless, even if they're low power, right? And doing that for each of the factions. And then just informing them of kind of next steps, because really that's what you have to do. You have to educate and just let them know what is going on, because they don't have access to, because we don't have access to server mail, so they can't see these things. So we either have to message them directly, or we let them know to try and come on the Discord. Thankfully, we've been getting quite a few leaders and officers from other alliances in the top 33 specifically, and even some outside of that have been coming to the Discord, right? We have an alliance chat set up where we kind of list these things out. I'll actually kind of give you guys a quick little preview here of kind of how we do some of our things. So here's an example of let me just switch my thing over, and let's go to Discord. So here's a quick example of our alliance list, right? And kind of how we set some of these things up. So you'll see here, right, we have like a top 15 alliance list. I probably should break this up and just do like top 30. It's more than 33 at this point, but I'll just say top 33, and then you can see, right, we have them in order. This was taken, when we did it, I think when I set this up about a week ago, and we just went down the list, and you can see, right, these are who the leads are, alliance name, what faction they're in, and then if there's someone here from that alliance. And we use this list as a way for people to get in contact with the necessary representative from those alliances, right? So that is something that is important to do. And I think really cannot be said enough, right? These are things that you have to set up for your infrastructure early on. And the earlier you set these things up, the better. So with all that being said, right, what are some of the challenges and kind of hurdles we're running into right now? Now, all of these are really in very small scale, to be honest. The things that we're really seeing early on is, we're trying to communicate to the alliances right now that, it's just one city per RSS Zone 1, right? Where you can see these ones, right, the lightest shade, meaning that any of the top 33 alliances are eligible, right, and deserving of one of these cities. Whether it's a level 1 or a level 2 city, it does not matter, right? But you'll notice that you'll see as an example here, like CIS, right, they have 2 of these level 1 cities. You'll see one here has a level 1 and a level 2 city as well, right? And again, these are our RSS Zone 1s, right? So these are just a couple. You can also see, if we look at like the faction power, right? 80 is kind of where you would be at if you have if you've captured a level 2 and a level 3 city. And I'll give you an example of that as well. So let's say, where are we? So we've done this one, right, which is the level 2, and this level 2 for dice. I'll just click on it so you can see, right? I get 30 points for that. And then if we go over to, what is it, Gaviel, that's the other one we captured, right? This was an initial level 3 city. I get 50 points, right? So that's kind of how you get 80. So when you know the initial point values, you can kind of, figure out, right? Everyone's got 2 cities. Okay, they're at 80 points. If some of these captured a level 3 and a level 1, they'd be at 70, right? If it's, right, and that would pretty much be it. Right, if they've done a level 1 and a level 2, they'd be at 50, right? You could kind of, 2 level 1s, 40, right? You can kind of figure some of these things out, right? That there's a couple alliances that have multiple cities, but then some of them you have to actually go and look at the map, right? So really what we're trying to do now is just explain, and just, again, you have to remember, right, when you're in somewhat of a leadership position, is that gosh, where am I going with this, right? You have to make sure that you're taking time to just understand that you're going to be kind of almost mass messaging and really just be on repeat a lot, right? A lot of the conversations I'll have with leads is just repeating information, right? Either rewording it so it can be better understood, rewording it so I can try and send messages that are being translated in a more efficient way, by writing the words out, right? Not really using conjunctions, I think that's what they're called, and those types of words, the ones with apostrophes, right? And those are things that obviously help the translator out a little bit more, in addition to trying to write obviously the full word and not using abbreviations or any kind of gosh, I don't want to say slang, but using any kind of I was going to say street words, but it's like the same thing. But you know what I mean. Just using the full version of the word, kind of what you would see in an English dictionary, so to speak, even though, yes, some of those words are, oh gosh, I don't want to get involved in semantics here. But the point is, these are the steps you have to take, right? And so those are like some of the small things we're working on right now. There were some leaders initially that thought that, maybe that we were going to do a 1/3 faction split, even though we never said that, right? And that's one of the things is that, right, you want to stay ahead on the communication game, and in order to do that, you have to reach out to the leads, right? This is the work you have to put in, right? Ghost and I, sent these messages. Embla, one of our other R6s, even helped out, right? We're going to end up messaging the top 100 alliances in each faction, which will be 300 leads, well, minus our 5, so probably 295, and we're going to do that here in probably the next couple days. And some of you might think, you know what, that's a lot of work. I'm going to tell you, it is a lot of work. But that is the type of work you have to put in if you want your server to have the highest chances of success, the highest chances of retaining as many players as humanly possible and keeping activity as high as possible, right? This is that kind of TLC and labor, if you will, that is needed. Again, it's hard to kind of quantify, because unless you're seeing me do it in real time and I'm live streaming and you kind of see what I do across a 6 to 8 hour period, right? Me giving you this summarized version, I'm sure, may only connect with so many people. But I do hope at least some of you may, after you watch these videos from our Building a Kingdom series, and you hear me talk about the work that actually goes in, right? I mean, usually my first 2 hours when I log in is typically just, responding to Discord messages, reading up on chats, then going in-game, responding to DMs in there, catching up on chats there, right? Leveling my accounts before I can even just get to anything else after that. So, man, I wonder if this is how the president feels of just any country, or just anyone, I guess, that is kind of in any managerial position, if they kind of have a daily routine of stuff they just know they have to kind of get out of the way before they can then start really, moving forward with kind of their next tasks. But with that being said, like I said, that pretty much covers where we're at right now in 37. Thankfully, there's no, there's really no rogue players. There's really no rogue alliances at the moment. Right, the jump window, I think, has closed, so we're really now just waiting for 90 days. I mean, again, my first week analysis is, I think things are going fantastic. I think there's a lot more upside so far than what we had in 36, arguably even what we had in 8, based on where we're at right now, how all the leads are on the same page, how we've really only had kind of small instances and situations that have popped up so far, right? There's no rogue players or no rogue alliances, again, as I mentioned, that have shown up at the moment. So I think all of these are big wins that we just haven't had before in a project. And so I don't want to sit here and say, man, we're like leaning into this golden age, but again, it is showing early signs of that. We'll see how it goes over the next couple weeks on what may or may not come up. But I can tell you, even early feedback from a lot of I don't know if I would say a lot, but a good amount of the alliances within the top 33 are happy that there's not unnecessary fighting. They're able to get a city. They're able to progress their accounts freely. We've even had to step in, I think on 2 or 3 occasions, right, because we saw people that were going in and attacking hives, right, whether they were revenging because someone attacked them or they were doing it aggressively. Right, I think the important part is, when it comes to something like that the less amount of fighting that happens, right, especially if it does not go on for a long time, is just going to be that much better for your server. right? Because the longer fights go on, the more players are going to leave those alliances, become inactive, or just decide that they want to stop playing on this server and re-roll in another. And so, right, managing those expectations and situations that come up, I think, are important. And really, there's only a couple ways to handle it, right? You either have the biggest hammer ever, and because your hammer is vitally or I shouldn't say vitally, but is so much bigger than someone else's, right? They're just not even going to challenge you, or you know that when you go in, it's going to be the end-all be-all, right? Because otherwise, let's say you have two alliances, and this is something that comes up often in a lot of servers. You have two alliances that are similar in power, right? I'll give you an example. Let's look at like TSOA and VAL, right? If these two, like let's say you had a player from this alliance from VAL that went to go attack TSOA, and this happens all the time in servers, right? You'll have a player from one or two of these alliances, and they'll attack another alliance, and then that alliance retaliates because, they'll have one or two players retaliate, but this time maybe they'll hit one or two extra players than what the first alliance did, and then you're just circling the drain. And it's just never ending. And a lot of times it's about addressing those players individually and realizing that the least amount of damage is going to come from, one, not retaliating, unless it is extremely aggressive, right? Unless they have a few people that go in and they're just burning and attacking everyone, okay, that's different. But if they go in and they attack like someone who's like farming a tile, or they hit a base once, right? Or even if they force TP'd someone one time, right? That does not mean that one player represents the entire philosophy and beliefs of every member in that alliance, right? Just because that one player went to go and attack. That's the thing that we have to be careful of, right? Or players and alliance leaders should be careful of kind of labeling those instances. It's better to reach out to the lead for the alliance that player is in and say, hey, look, this player attacked us, right? For no reason. We've never been aggressive, right? Or you can ask, right? Did this player do that of their own volition? Did they do this on their own? Did you tell them to go and do this? Right? How are you going to address this? Right? And ask them, how are you going to address this? And if they give you an answer like, hey, look, I'm going to talk to the player, I'll message him, right? Hopefully, it won't happen again, kind of a thing. And then if it does happen, he'll be kicked, right? Something like that. That's an example of some appropriate steps you could take to try and remedy the situation. If it escalates from there, and it gets more than that, then I would say that's the time where you would either then have to make a decision, right? You either would then just focus on attacking and addressing that individual player if you can, which I would imagine based on, in this example, of these two alliances being similar in power, or you just having two alliances similar in power in your server, that's something you can do, right? It doesn't mean because this player attacked us, now we need to go and attack these other players. No, you should be doing one-for-one ratio trades. If one player from an alliance attacks you, then you can go and attack that player for the amount of times that they attacked you. You still should reach out to the lead, right, to try and address those things, but that really should be the extent of it. Why? Because now you're not involving other players and further escalating the situation, and the incidents are isolated to just two players, the person who attacked and who was attacked. And if they go back and forth with each other, right, then one, sure, obviously you'd like for them to stop, but if that happens, you've literally limited everyone else's unnecessary involvement to just those two individuals. So just kind of some food for thought. I just wanted to throw that in there because that is something that we've kind of had come up on the server between two other alliances, even though I'm sure there's a little more context to it, and this is just a broad kind of vague overview of how I think those types of situations can be best handled before they escalate and get to that next level. But that's it for me. Again, this is a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but I hope y'all enjoy me covering and kind of giving you these status updates on our server for how things are going and trying to remain as objective as I can. Because like I said, I think it's important to talk about what are the challenges, what are the struggles. Hopefully you as players in your service can relate to what I'm saying. Maybe you have a similar situation that's come up, and me talking about what's happening in our server and addressing it and giving you some ideas on how to go about remedying the situation may help. So I think for me that's always something that I hope it can by me taking time to kind of explain what we're doing. But that's it for me. I am out. Until next time, we will catch y'all later.